And ladies and gentlemen, welcome down to ContyChat. Remember, we are on our socials as well, so be sure to follow us, okay? We are on Spotify, Instagram, and also on TikTok, where this particular app, TikTok, right, apparently it caused a ruckus this time around when it comes to GE15. But is it true though? But we'll talk about this later, okay? My name is Brandon Lepal, and we will be right here together with the guests for the next 30 minutes right here once again on ContyChat. It is great to have you here. And let's just talk about GE15, where it was like unfolded few weeks ago, right? So Parliament was dissolved on 10th of October that brought about G15. Now, with Undi 18 being automatic, Malaysia saw its figures exceed G14 total voters by 3.42 million. And apparently this figure is not really accurate. Well, we'll talk about that soon also as well. Now, politics in Malaysia have definitely took a healthy turn where young voters took the initiative to learn more about its history, also their aspirations towards a better nation. So we want to hear from our panelists, or rather from our guests today in the studio, where we brought to you guys Edin Khoo, a senior fellow at ISIS Malaysia, which is basically the Institute of Strategic and International Studies. So welcome to the show, Mr. Edin Khoo.
Good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And also, ladies and gentlemen, Rafiq Suhaimi, Vice President of IIUM Student Union. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here, thank you.
Okay, first and foremost, I'm not going to ask Edin Khoo about whether it's the first time or the second time he's voted, because I'm sure he has voted more than 3 times.
More than 3.
More than 3 times, exactly. It's only like my second time, because I'm actually that young. But anyways, Rafiq,
Yes.
this is probably your second time voting?
This is actually my first time.
Oh, your first time voting. So, that is the question. How has it been?
Actually, it's quite euphoric, and when you see the result, of course, because when you voted for the party that you wanted and it actually won and formed the government, for the first time voter, you feel like, oh, I did actually do something, a change in the country. And it was quite nice to go there for the first time, and it was not hard actually to go and vote. I thought it would be, I have to line up for a long time, you know, with other people. But then at my place, Segambut, that I voted, there was a lot of people, but the line was smooth, the process was smooth, and I think it also contributed to my feeling of, oh, this is what I did for the country. And Gen Z, we take pictures of our hair.
Of course, you see here, it's right here still, okay? I'm not going to like take this out, okay? No, simply because, you know, we have friends and we have family saying, hey, Brendan, just take, you know, Clorox and just go and rub it off, you know, and just clear it off. Why you still have your finger like that? I'll be like, so what? I'm actually quite proud of it, right? So, Mr. Edin, I want to ask you, this time around, are you surprised though to see like 3 different collisions instead of always 2?
No. I think if you've been following politics since 2018 and all the developments that have happened, it's not a surprise at all, no.
It's not a surprise at
Not
all.
a surprise at all.
Wow, fantastic. So, Undi 18 came into the picture. Do you think it's like a good approach? To be very honest, we need to talk about this, because apparently this particular group have been like tarnished by the adults out there, saying that Undi 18, I mean, come on, they are too young. What do they know about politics? And yeah, we hung Parliament. It's because of them. What do you have to say about it?
Brother, you can get married at 16.
Oh,
I think you can set up a household at 16.
Okay.
You can certainly make a decision on who you want to vote at 18. I think this highly patronizing looking down on the maturity of people. In fact, if you ask me, I think many senior politicians are very immature. They shouldn't be voting. So I think it's a very good progression towards the maturing of our democracy. And the maturing of our democracy has certainly been affirmed by the last election.
Okay, one question I want to ask both of you. Yeah? Okay, one from Rafiq, obviously. Get your opinions and your point of view, so on and so forth. But Mr. Edin, every single time when it comes to collision, when they win, you know, they talk about our focus should be on the rakyat. Yes, of course, it should be on the rakyat. It shouldn't be on anything else. But what does it mean this time around?
I think what they should focus, or I think the government, what they bring to the government is that if they want to focus on the rakyat, I think they have to focus on much more things that are experienced by the rakyat itself. Things like welfare. Also, for me, I think my most important thing that I want to push is academic freedom and also education, because I feel that in university, especially in a public university like myself, I feel that there are not much things that we can do as students, and the environment and condition is like what Mr. Adihu said. It's very patronizing. You cannot do programs without the approval. You cannot do things. You have. It's like you have to do everything step by step. Of course, it's bureaucracy, but there's no freedom there. Like we cannot invite who we want. You cannot invite what we want to talk about. There's a very specific environment, and I don't think it's a freedom that we have.
But do you think we are ready for that kind of freedom?
I feel that if you facilitate that kind of environment, you can be ready for that kind of freedom.
That's a good one. What about you, Mr. Adin?
No, that's a really excellent answer. I think for a long time, this notion that somehow we are not ready was a notion that was perpetuated by the government and the governing parties and the politicians involved. And what we actually see is that the ground has greatly matured. They're very clear about what they want and how they want it. The most important thing about this elections, I think, is that it has impressed that consultative government is very, very important. The channels need to be created so that people can constantly be consultative with the government. I also hope the result will bring about a greater fertility of democracy, whereby we get other kinds of elections like local council elections. These are hugely important, especially given the kind of breakdown in infrastructure in just about every single vicinity in this country.
Right.
And so we can't cope with drainage, we can't cope with sewage, we can't cope with and these are all local council matters. I think that is the next crucial step for our democracy, essentially to vote our representatives at the local level.
So when they have come up front saying that, okay, the focus would be on each and every one of you, the rakyat, right? We had politicians previously over-promising their so-called agenda, so on and so forth. Do you think we're going to see this something different this time around, or nah, it's just going to be the same thing all over again? Yeah, Mr. Adin.
Yeah, well, we've seen 4 or 5 days now of Datuk Sri Anwar's prime ministership. There's no administration yet, but you already see a completely different tone that has been taken. A whole different personality of Prime Minister that has been presented. So we hope that he's able to quell whatever political uncertainty there is and continue and persevere with this kind of approach to government. These are big words that we use, approach to government. But there are things that need to be realized now. They've been talked about for a very long time, but you need the personality at the top to essentially see it through.
Rafiq, are you afraid that, a certain coalition right now being unity government, are you worried that it's people are just over-promising things?
I think you have to look at the dynamic between the coalition, between the parties inside the coalition, who is leading and who is becoming the cabinet of ministry. I think it also plays a role on if we appoint good people and if we appoint capable people in the ministry, I don't think it will be a case of over-promising, because I think what we need to do right now is set things straight and also make basic needs for the rakyat itself, because I feel not a lot of the development in this country and also the basic welfare of this country. I think that is the thing that we need to focus on. I don't think that is an over-promise if you want to promise the people that you want to provide these things.
Well, previously, we had a leader who stated that we didn't know that we were going to win, so there are a few things that we actually can't really do. And that, honestly, until today, when I actually went out to vote, it starts playing in my head. So, are we really doing the right thing by first and foremost even voting? But yes, of course it is. You're practicing democracy. But I can't help it, but, I get scared when I think about stuff like that again, because am I voting like what Mr. Adin just said? You got to vote for the correct representatives, but are they willing to actually take the discipline and the initiatives to actually make changes? So, Mr. Adin, when it comes to you voting, do you have these certain thoughts played in your head every single time when you go out and vote? You've been voting for the longest time ever.
Thank you for that. But let me first also kind of defend the leader. Okay. Not defend, but basically qualify what the leader you mentioned, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, our former Prime Minister, was saying. I think he inherited a great deal that he didn't even know of.
Yeah.
So that beban, that weight of what the reality was as compared to the manifesto. But Dr. Mahathir has his style, you see. He has his political style that I think what we realized in 2018 was that he was really out of fashion with the political attitudes of the day, and he was still carrying a 1990s kind of father knows best, and the way I say it, this sarcasm and this humor, it doesn't work anymore. But what do I think really when I go to vote, and I think a lot of people did that, they think of who their elected representative is going to be.
Right.
Of course, a large number, though not the majority, I do think the majority still vote according to who they think can best serve their constituency and their interest. But yes, people now have to be very, very cautious about their promises, and they have to be very aware of where Malaysia is at the moment of their taking office.
Right. Okay. So, something that's very much confusing. Why is everybody vying for the leadership position, the premiership, which is the Prime Minister? So, when we come back, we will talk about it right here on ContyChat.
One of the great goals of the World Cup Finals.
Acara terbesar bola sepak dunia, detik dramatik, sorakan keterujaan, segala aksi yang mendebarkan, rempatan kencang yang menggegar gawang, dan kejayaan-kejayaan yang diraikan. Aksi-aksi terbaik dan perlawanan-perlawanan berprestij terus kami bawakan untuk anda. Piala Dunia FIFA Qatar 2022 kembali, dari perlawanan peringkat kumpulan sehingga penentuan kejuaraan. Sepanjang 21 November sehingga 18 Disember dengan 41 siaran langsung dan 22 siaran tertunda di TV2 dan TVOD serta 41 siaran ulangan berdefinisi tinggi di saluran sukan RTM. Juga boleh disaksikan secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik. Segalanya dibawakan untuk anda secara percuma di sini. Sorakan kemeriahan ini bersama kami di RTM, penyiar berlesen Piala Dunia FIFA Qatar 2022.
Hey, thank you so much for bouncing with us right here on ContyChat. So right now we are talking about a topic which is basically a fortnight later. Our brand new unity government, how have they been, so on and so forth. And together with my guests, we've got Mr. Edin Khoo, Senior Fellow at ISIS Malaysia, and Rafiq Suhaimi, Vice President of IIUM Student Union. Now, the top post, every single time leaders would say, I have the numbers. Why is it so important to actually, try to obviously stay on top every single time, knowing the fact that Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, which is our Prime Minister, has sworn in as the 10 p.m. So Rafiq, why do you think?
Because there is the possibility of the confidence voting in 19th of December later, where maybe because there are some maybe backdoor dealings that they do with each other, but it will also have to be we all have to wait until the 19th of December to see if Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim truly have 112 or more in his cabinet or in his coalition, because I feel that he already provided sufficient evidence to the Agong YDPA. But then 19 December is a long time until then, so there's a lot of things that can happen if there are things that unsatisfaction during the cabinet ministry, or I did not get the ministry that I want, you got the most ministry, why is it like this? So there are some possibilities, I think. So 19 December is very important, I think.
So, I mean, we are not done yet, Mr. Edin?
No, we're not done yet, and I must commend Datuk Sri Anwar for taking his position as Prime Minister to the House to be voted. We didn't see this previously after the Lanka Sheraton. We just had people coming up with SDs, and if I hear that word SD one more time, I'm going to bleed from my ears. Because there were people who were signing 2-3 SDs, all looking after their own interests. I think if this election is to have any impact at all, it is to basically remind our elected representatives that our interest precedes everything else,
Right.
Especially theirs.
So us as Rakyat, Mr. Edin, what can we do? Can we do anything about this?
Well, yeah, of course, you have to make it. We can't do anything kind of formally or legally, sadly. But I think we can very much make our thoughts and opinions
By
known.
signing the petitions, on and so forth.
You shouldn't underestimate. I know there are so many petitions going all around the place, but somehow of expression of public point of view is very crucial. The media plays a very important role in this, by the way.
Right.
I also want to add that you have to mobilize and organize the community that you are wanting to represent. For example, for me, I will represent the students and also the students' needs. We have put out the statement out there that there are some things that we want from the Ministry of Higher Education, some things that we want to be improved, something we want to be removed. That is a statement or maybe things that we can do, because I think democracy does not stop at the voting day at all. We can participate in pressure groups, participate in NGOs, put out statement, kertas cadangan, give out to ministry, let them debate your kertas cadangan. These things are what we can do as rakyat, because I don't think people should know that is our power of democracy does not stop at voting day only. There are more than that.
So, according to our beloved Yang di-Pertuan Agong, Al-Sultan Abdullah, he has said that ada yang menang, ada yang kalah. So it took him, and not just him, it took the political scene in the country about 3 to 4 days before being able to identify our 10th Prime Minister, Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Are you excited? Were you relieved with the results at the appointment of our 10 PM?
Well, because I supported Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim as Prime Minister, and I think it's a breath of fresh air in the country, because like what Sir Edin said, it's things that he brought, the poise, the things, the quality, and you can see the reception of him becoming the Prime Minister is quite overwhelming around the worldwide also. And I'm excited to see what he can bring, and also the cabinet that he will appoint, and I want to see what he can bring to the. There are a few things that I want to expect. We'll see what the cabinet will bring.
Okay. What do you think, Mr. Edin?
Well, I was a very ardent Reformasi activist.
Right.
From 98. And there have been ebb and flows, of course, as with every experience. But there's a great deal that the Reformasi movement launched, in particular the post-Reformasi phenomenon. So many of our elected representatives, for example, were people that I engaged with a great deal in all kinds of independent spaces, sekolah democracy and things like that, where I was a kind of lecturer, and today I see them in as Menteri Besar of Selangor and MP of Kanga and so on. But I think what Dato Sri Anwar, he has an unenviable job. It's not just about the economy. It's about transforming the entire political culture of this country. And while I know there will be lots of compromises that need to be made as a result of cabinet formation and so on, and I have some pretty radical ideas about that. But I think essentially the thing that has to be done is he has to commit himself towards battling a culture of cronyism, of surrounding yourself with, yes men, and really initiating this transformation of all our political attitudes, institutions, and culture.
When you just mentioned about transformation, now in the next 5 years, I mean, it's not a long time to tell you the truth and to be honest.
And he's not young.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you hope to see in the next 5 years?
Oh, I hope to see really a metamorphosis. I mean, things have we have delayed our reform for at least 3 penggal, 3 terms. For all that is said about people like Datuk Sri Najib, I mean, there were that grotesque thing called the 1MDB kind of overshadowed a lot of other reforms that he took. So I think what we also need to be as observers and as critics and as voters is really to have a more rational approach to how we see this transformation too. Everybody has to play their part,
right? And
being partisan and being uncritical of just the people you support is not going to help the country move.
You see, when it comes to our aspirations towards a better nation, right? We have different picture and scenarios. Like Rafiq, what do you want to see in the next 5 years? It's going to be different as what the other people or the other group of people want to see. So for you, representing students out there? What do you want to see in the next 5 years?
Like I mentioned before, my main focus, what I want to see is on the academic and education, because I feel that our education needs much reform, not just from higher education but also from the primary, secondary and also tertiary. I feel that there's a lot of things that we need to change, there's a lot of things that we need to reform, and I want to see that.
Like what? Come on, let's say it.
For example, IIUM Student Union is one of the most ardent supporters of to repel the AUKU laws in in university. So we want a better law and also more inclusive laws in university, public university, for example. And maybe one of the things that we want to have is repel AUKU and also replace it with better laws that govern the students, because this has been since 2019, 2018 to repel AUKU. It has been repealed twice before during Mazli time, but then he got fired and then it did not happen. For example, one of the things that Mazli brought was the establishment of student union in university, and the only one that got approved under ROS and everything is IIUM Student Union. We have UM Student Union, we have UKM Student Union, but other than that, outside of Klang Valley, outside of maybe Peninsula Malaysia, there are no student union in our education and also higher tertiary university. So I feel that one of the things that I want to see is also maybe a national student union council that governs all the students.
Actually, the student union thing could be very subjective, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, it depends on which university you belong to or you go to. Some of them would just not bother attending or getting involved in student union, so on and so forth. So there must be some sort of a shift here, and why student union is actually very important. So you represent the students out there. So why is it actually very important?
It's very important because it provides self-autonomy to the students.
Okay.
Because, for example, in IIM Student Union, we are basically registered under ROS.
Hold on, yeah. So the students all don't complain about the lecturers all to you, right?
No, they complain to the administration, but
okay.
For us, we have our own bank account, we have our own governing bodies, and we are in the process of getting the clubs inside IIUM to be under student union. So student activity mostly will be approved by us. So it provides freedom and autonomy to the student, where you can do your own activity, you can invite speakers that the students want to hear, and we provide the student with more things that they can have in the university. And other than that, because if you see the difference between MPP, SRC and IIUM Student Union, MPP is directly under the administration. For student union, we are partners with the university, meaning that in the higher meeting, the meeting with the rector, vice chancellor, we are also in that meeting.
Mr. Rinku, when you were a student once upon a time as well, were you involved with this organization, as I would say?
I studied abroad.
Okay.
So I was very, very involved, and I studied at a very interesting time in the late 80s, when there were huge popular movements. For example, anti-apartheid movement. I was very involved. Right. Then there was the fall of the Berlin Wall. So people had to reconfigure the world post the Soviet Union, and then of course there were things like the cause for Palestine and things like that, which I was extremely, extremely involved in. So from that point of view, I think it's very crucial that student unions be allowed everywhere, and that students have a spirit of participation in their future and in things that they believe in. The university is very important because that is the real tapak, that is the real foundation upon which you begin to evolve your own personal principles.
So this is where topics like politics can be discussed to give you some sort of a wider picture of how things is done in the country, so on and so forth, and of course aspirations that comes along the way. Now, of course, briefly touch on the historic partnership between Pakatan Harapan and also Barisan Nasional, and then right now we have GPS. As a Malaysian, what is the ultimate hope for the country under this leadership? Would you even think that we will have a unity government one day? to be very honest. I think, Rafiq, you would say that yes, we would have. What about you, Mr. Edin?
Yeah, no, I think it's all, the trajectory is pointing that way.
Okay.
And I think that's a great challenge to politicians or people who are going to embark in politics. I think it's going to be a lot easier with the next generation of leaders. They don't have the same kind of personal kind of darah dendam,
Okay.
vengeful blood in them. Now look at all the political parties. They are all led by people who at one time came from the same
home.
same womb. That's
Yeah.
a very nice word. But I think we are heading towards a direction where I don't think you can see any political party winning outright very
Right.
much anymore,
Right.
or having the kinds of majorities that Barisan Nasional had for a great many decades. This is a very healthy thing. It's something that we need to adapt to. And I think even in this instance with this unity government, in fact, when Dr. Mahathir proposed his last unity government, I was supportive in principle also, because I thought the politics had just gotten out of control and got very, very personal. And that's disastrous for a nation. So I'm looking forward to a future where I think unity governments become the norm,
Right.
rather than the extraordinary thing.
All
that
right.
happens.
Thank you so much for standing. What about you? Very simple. Keep it short and simple, because unfortunately we ran out of time, folks.
In nature, democracy, unity government is
Right.
a much more occasional thing.
Okay.
Because there's like Professor Sir Edin said, no one can win majority like we had in those old times.
Yeah.
And it's mature democracy in UK 2017 general election. Not even unity government, they even have a minority government with a confidence and supply agreement. So I think in the future it will be much more common.
Right, okay. So thank you so much once again to Mr. Edin Khoo, Senior Fellow at ISIS Malaysia, for being here with us. Thank you so much, sir.
Great pleasure,
And
thank
also Rafiq Suhaimi, Vice President of IIUM Student Union. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you guys as well for joining us right here on ContyChat. And of course, you can follow us on socials at ContyChat as well. So if you want to check out our previous topics, previous episode as well, all you need to do is head on over to RTN Click and just look for us at ContyChat. Till then, I'm Brendan Lepal. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.